This is surface area of prisms. A prism is a three-dimensional shape with two parallel and congruent faces called bases. The faces that are not bases are always rectangles in a prism. So you've got your bases, which in this picture are rectangles, and all the pieces in the middle are rectangular. So the bases can be different shapes, but the pieces in the middle are always rectangles in a prism. The surface area of a shape is the sum of the areas of each side of the three-dimensional shape. Lateral surface area is the sum of the areas of the lateral faces, which are all the sides that appear in the middle, excluding the bases, the top and bottom base. The surface area of a rectangular prism is the sum of the areas of the bases and lateral faces together. And we do have a formula we can use for surface area of a rectangular prism, which means the bases are both rectangles as well as all of the lateral faces. And that formula is 2 times length times width plus 2 times length times height plus 2 times width times height. So let's look at a rectangular prism that we're going to try to find the surface area of, and we'll show you how the formula works. So the first thing that we're being asked to do here is to draw a net for the prism below. So a net is basically when you take a three-dimensional shape and you imagine you're unfolding it so that you can see each two-dimensional side that makes up the three-dimensional figure. So in this case, I took this three-dimensional rectangular prism here and I put my front side, which is right here, as this piece. Then I'd have the larger rectangle side, then a back piece, which would be the same as the front, and another side piece, which would be the same as this side piece. And then I had the bases fold up and down. So I can find the area of each of these individualized pieces. So this one is a length of 6 and width of 3, so an area of 18. This one has a base of 5 and a height of 6, so an area of 30. And then since this one is a copy of this one, it's also 18, and this is a copy of this one, it's also 30. And then a base is 5 times 3 or 15, and both the bases will be congruent or the same. So I'm adding 18, 18, 30, 30, and 15, and 15. And for this, I get a grand total of 126 inches squared. Now, another way that I can do this is by using this formula that we talked about. Since all of the sides have another congruent side in a rectangular prism, we're basically finding 3 sides and doubling each of them because each one has a double. So length times width is going to be my bases. So 2 times the length of this shape, 3, and the height of this, the width of this shape, 5. And together this is going to give us 30. And we're going to add that to 2 length times height. And length times height is going to be this right and this left side. So 2 times 5 times 6, which is going to give us a total of 60, plus 2 times the width times the height. So width of 3, height of 6, these are the front and back sides. 2 times 3 times 6 for a total of 36. And then I need to add up these totals. So 126 inches squared. So 2 different ways here to find the surface area. Now, while that formula works for rectangular prisms, it's not going to work for all prisms. Not all prisms have a rectangular base. Some of them have triangular bases or hexagonal bases. So we name our prisms after the base. So in this case, we have a triangular prism. So if we're trying to find the surface area of any prism, not just rectangular ones, we are also finding the sum of the area of the bases and the lateral faces. But a formula that will work for any prism is 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base times the height. So when we see these capitalized variables, it means there's something that we actually have to figure out in order to put in for these. It's not just a number that's on the prism. This is the area of the base, perimeter of the base. So those are going to have to be calculated separately. So let's just first draw a net of the prism and find the surface area. So in this case, I have my three middle pieces, which are rectangular. I've got this front one here, that's a 3x6. I put that one in the middle with my triangle bases folded out. And then I've got this side, the 6x4 over here, and my back side, the 6x5 over here. So I can find the individual areas of all these pieces. So for this rectangle, it's 6 times 5 for 30. This one is 6 times 3, 18. And this one's 6 times 4, 24. Now triangles are base times height divided by 2. And the base and the height form a right angle. So I've got 3 times 4, which is 12, divided by 2 is 6. So my bases are each 6 here. So I'm adding 30, 18, 24, 6, and 6. And here I'm going to get a grand total of 84 meters squared. Now I can also do this problem using my formula. 2 times the area of the base, well the base is the triangle, and 4 times 3 divided by 2 is 6, so the area of the base is 6, plus the perimeter of the base is 5 plus 4 plus 3, 12, times the height of the whole shape is 6. So 2 times 6 here gives us 12, 12 times 6 gives us 72, and if we add these two together, we get 84 meters squared. So 2 different ways to get our surface area. Now let's look at the surface area of a cube. Cubes have 6 sides that are all identical. They are all squares. So in this case, I'm drawing a net for this cube, and every side is looking identical. The 4 lateral faces in the middle and the folded out base, they all have sides of 12 meters. So I can basically find the area of one of these squares. 12 times 12 is 144. And since they're all identical, I can do 144 times 6 to get my surface area. And I get 864 meters squared. So you have these rectangular traps. They don't have a top or a bottom, but inside of them they're coated with glue to catch emerald ash borers, these beetles that will eat your ash trees. So you make your own trap in the shape of a rectangular prism with an open top and bottom. What is the surface area that you need to coat with glue? Well, I need to find the surface area of this guy minus the top and the bottom. So I see that it has a long side here that is a 10 by 20 side, and there's going to be 2 of them. If there's one here on the right, there's going to be an identical one on the left. So those 2 sides are going to give me a total of 400 inches squared that I need to, in this case, coat with glue. Now I'm also going to have to coat the front and the back, which have dimensions of 12 by 20. So 12 by 20, and since it's the front and back, there's going to be 2 of them. So in this case, the 12 by 20 by 2 is going to give me a total of 480 inches squared that I have to coat with glue. And altogether, this is 880 inches squared that needs to be coated with glue in order to have my trap working to catch the emerald ash borer beetles.